Hi, and welcome to the newest episode of the J-Karp Show. Sorry about the hiatus, but it gets pretty hectic with my schedule this time of year. But this episode is going to be dedicated to one major topic in the world of sports, and that's the NFL free agency. Ever since 2 days ago when the free agency market opened, teams have been signing like crazy, with notable signings from the Dolphins, Browns, and Broncos. But we're going to just go through a rundown of some of the notable free agents that were added over the past few days and how they impact the teams they were signed to. The first one I want to talk about is Mike Wallace being signed to the Dolphins. The Dolphins have been struggling on offense in recent years, and with the addition of Ryan Tannehill, despite Brian Hartline's extension, they didn't really have a huge playmaker on offense. In steps in Mike Wallace, 4-year vet, Steeler playmaker, the top receiver arguably on the Steelers. He's a perfect fit for the Dolphins, who really need a boost in their offense. Then you have the Cleveland Browns, who signed Paul Kruger, one of the 7 Baltimore Ravens starters, who had been either released, re-signed with another team, I should say, or traded away. Paul Kruger got 4.5 sacks during the postseason for the Ravens, and the Browns sent him to a 5-year, $40 million deal, so he gets $8 million per year. This is much needed for the Browns' defense under new coordinator Ray Horton, as with the 3-4 they will be able to finally get a good pass rusher, even if he's just an outside linebacker like Paul Kruger. They also signed defensive tackle Desmond Bryant, who by far had the funniest and most messed up mugshot I've ever seen. Yes, they signed somebody with a mugshot, but let's be real, isn't that who all the Oakland Raiders players have? Anyway, we also have, despite thoughts of a repeat championship, the Ravens have not signed barely anybody this free agency notable enough. In fact, they've lost almost 50% of their sacks last year, 68% of their picks, as far as players who achieved those feats for them. The Ravens are really struggling as far as free agency is concerned, and if they want to make a run at a repeat title, they're going to have to make more moves in free agency. In an AFC North division that is now actually featuring the Bengals and Browns starting to move up, the Ravens really need to keep their place atop the throne of the AFC North, which is arguably one of the toughest divisions in the NFL. Next we have Sean Green, running back Sean Green. Sean Green signed with the Tennessee Titans, and they did spend a lot of money to get him, but they need him to back up Chris Johnson, although I'm a fan of Javon Ringer, the Michigan State running back. Next you have Wes Welker, the big Wes Welker who signed with the Denver Broncos. And, I mean, it was a huge event that even Tom Brady was upset about happened. And Brady was reportedly upset that his top receiver, Wes Welker, was just allowed basically to walk away from the team. And now with the Broncos, along with Demaryius Thomas and Eric Decker, Peyton Manning has an amazing set of receivers to throw to next year. Now, some other little more moves that we have. Former Texan safety Glover Quinn has signed with the Lions. The Buccaneers have signed former 49ers All-Pro safety Deshaun Goldson. And this is a big hit to the Niners defense, who really struggled in the secondary last year. But to make up for it, the Niners signed defensive tackle Glenn Dorsey, formerly of the Chiefs. It was a good pickup in my opinion because he'll play multiple spots on their line, whether splitting places with Justin Smith and Ray McDonald, and will likely come in on passing downs and dime situations. Now, the Seahawks, who have also been busy, signed Cliff Averill, former defensive end of the Detroit Lions, and defensive tackle Jason Jones, or let Jason Jones sign with the Lions. Basically, Averill will take the place of Jones, as they need good pass rushers to line up alongside Chris Clemens. Now, former Steelers and first-round pick Rashard Mendenhall has signed with the Cardinals. Corners Coy Francis and Phillip Adams both re-signed with the Raiders on Tuesday. Both players were with the Seahawks in training camp last year and then released at the final cut. Now, some other ones. The Rams made a nice pickup. One move I'm happy for, being a Rams fan, was them getting Jared Cook. With the losses of both Amendola and Brandon Gibson, the Rams really lacked players on offense to help, and let's not forget Steven Jackson going to Atlanta. So it really is good to bring in a tight end of Cook's caliber, who's arguably is the fastest tight end, one of, if not the fastest tight ends in the NFL, and has amazing catching abilities. Now it's just a matter as if Bradford can get other playmakers around him, which I think will happen because you have Chris Givens and Brian Quick, both of whom, while not getting a whole lot of targets last year, made the most out of every attempt they did get, and I expect great things out of all three of those players. Now back to the Steven Jackson situation. After 9 years, Steven Jackson has left St. Louis after an 8 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He signed a $3-year, $12 million deal with the Atlanta Falcons, meaning he will play till he's 32. It's mixed with a lot of emotions in St. Louis because for a team that has not made the playoffs since 2004, Steven Jackson was like the cornerstone of the Rams. He was the familiar face everybody knew and loved. He always remained loyal to his team. And and despite issues of contracts disrupting over the years, he still stuck true to the Rams' blue and gold. And unlike when Danny Amendola left, which was met with a lot of criticism from Rams fans, people humbly allow Steven Jackson to leave because he has made his mark in St. Louis. A lot of people believe even his number will be retired. Whatever the case may be, it's no denying that the franchise's all-time rushing leader deserves our utmost respect, and I'm proud to have watched Steven Jackson over the years become, whether it's Marshall Faulk's successor to his own standard for running backs, a mix of speed and brute strength at the same time. Now some other moves we have. Former Seahawks linebacker Will Herring was released by the Saints. Not sure if they had any interest in re-signing him at this point, but he was a solid special teams player and nickel package contributor to a very porous Saints defense. Now this deal, a lot of people are excited to hear about. The Lions and Reggie Bush have actually agreed on a 4-year deal. Now the Lions are getting a lot of players in free agency, but the important thing here is that Reggie Bush is not going to the Cardinals, which is one of the rumored destinations. Now why is that good news? Because the NFC West is completely stacking up. The Seahawks got Percy Harvin for a 1st, 3rd, and 7th round pick. They traded to the Vikings for Percy Harvin, which will give Russell Wilson another good receiver, barring he stays healthy. And the Niners only had to give up a 6th round pick to get Anquan Boldin from the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, Anquan Boldin from the Baltimore Ravens is a San Francisco 49er. Now, as if signing Randy Moss didn't bring enough veteran presence to the team, it's amazing to see what he will accomplish the next season. But the NFC West and the Rams recently were trying to sign Luis Delmas and Jake Long, both of which failed, as Delmas has re-signed with the Lions on a 2-year deal, and Jake Long might re-sign with the Dolphins, but is still on the market. Which brings a lot of Rams fans worried as to why none of these arguably are the top 2 players in the market at their respective positions, and you wonder why they didn't sign them. Well, Delmas has a history of knee problems, and the Rams worried about that. So they only offered him up to a 1-year deal, which is what detracted Delmas away. Jake Long, I'm still not sure of, because of the fact he spent 72 hours in St. Louis and still had no deal. Now, former Seahawks kicker Josh Brown signed with the Giants. Niners D-tackle Isaac Boega signed with the Eagles. And Raiders receiver Darius Hayward-Bay was released a couple nights ago. And the release of Hayward-Bay makes for a big shocker in Oakland, as a lot of people were hoping that the injury-prone, though, Hayward-Bay would still be given one last chance. But that's not apparent. Now, the Cardinals have signed Antonio Cason. The Ravens have signed former Cowboy Marcus Spears to a 2-year deal. Brent Grimes, who everybody thought was going to resign with the Falcons, is now visiting the Dolphins. And the Lions bring back Luis Delmas, like I said earlier, for a 2-year deal. Now, the last one I'm going to talk about is Elmas Dumerville. This was an interesting story that happened only a couple hours ago. Elmas Dumerville was allowed to take a pay cut. He was restructuring his contract, but you have to make a deadline, basically. And if you don't make the deadline, you'll be released. Well, the fax was sent in too late. The fax that said his contract with the terms and everything on it. Well, it's official. Elmas Dumerville is no longer a Denver Bronco. He is free on the market. He has been released because his contract negotiations were sent in too late. And it's a big shocker in the league because I mean, it's time to forget. The Denver Post reported that the Broncos have released Dumervil after they did not get his paperwork regarding the reduction of his salary from $12 million to $8 million until after the 2 p.m. Mountain Time deadline that made his original salary guaranteed. The Broncos received the fax from Dumervil at 2:07, 7 minutes and 1 second after they had to pull the trigger to release him. The team could still re-sign him. There would be different salary cap ramifications because of his contract running beyond the 2013 year. This past few days, half a week I should say, of free agency has already been intense. And with many more weeks, and including the NFL draft coming up, one only wonders who's next on the free agent market, who will be signed next, what will teams do, what positions need to be filled, and how will those players who are still on the market be able to fill those positions. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the J-Karp Show. You can like my pages, J-Karp's NFL Updates on Facebook and the J-Karp Show on Facebook, and follow me on Twitter at J-Karp Sports Fan 1. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you next time.